Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wealth Conversation podcast with me, Tsitsi Mutiti. I guide high-achieving women on their journey to build lasting wealth so they can prepare for an abundant future in every area of their life. I hope that today's episode will help you to transform your relationship with money so you can make the choices that will enable you to create the opportunities and lasting wealth that you desire. Let's get straight into this week's episode. This episode is dedicated to Black History Month, which is celebrated in October here in the UK. As my contribution to this very special period in the UK calendar, I wanted to celebrate the people who I believe are making history right now. In this episode, I'll be speaking with Makala Green. Makala is a successful financial expert, motivational speaker, and wealth coach, and is prestigiously recognized as the first Black female chartered financial planner in the UK. She has over 17 years extensive experience in wealth management and financial services and is the founder and managing director of Green Wealth Planning Limited, which was established in 2015 to help private individuals, business owners, and entertainment professionals achieve future financial security. Welcome, Makala, to the Wealth Conversation podcast.
Thank you so much, Tsitsi, for inviting me on.
I'm so glad to have you here, and I can't wait to share your story. So, could you please share a bit more about yourself and your background?
Sure. Well, my name is Makala Green, and I am an award-winning, chartered financial planner. I've been in the industry over 17 years now, and my passion is just helping people get to grips with money, taking control of their finances, and ultimately, feeling confident about talking about money and just embracing everything to do with money and finances, which is kind of unheard of in the UK.
I know what you mean. Yeah, and for someone who comes from the Black community, it's one of those things that we don't really talk about that much. So yeah, I love the work you do, Makala. And I have to say, when I discovered you, it inspired me to continue pushing forward for a career in this industry, which then takes me to my next question. What actually motivated you to pursue a career in financial services?
Well, thank you for, firstly stating that I inspired you. I think we had a conversation. That was the first time we met, and I'm sure you're not sharing it on here, but just hearing your story, really inspired me and was very inspirational. So I just think as women, especially in the industry, we do so much behind the scenes that are sometimes not seen, and not heard. And it's down to us, I suppose, that's our responsibility to really just sometimes put our stories out there and, show the world that women are represented within the industry. So, and one of the things that motivated me for Dan was simply that, I think coming up in the industry, started in the industry at quite a young age. And the more I gained experience within the industry and the longer the more I grew up in the ranks, should I say, the less and less women that I saw, and the less women I saw from different backgrounds. So that was something that really motivated me. I suppose it was almost an obstacle that I had to overcome at that point in time, but I was able to use it as a strength in terms of its uniqueness. And I allowed that to motivate me to do more, to show that, there are women in this industry, there are Black women in this industry and women of different backgrounds, and finance is not just, the usual status quo as many may have known the industry to be.
Yes, it took me a while to realize that there are, just women, right, in the industry, let alone Black women in the industry. And I think for me, because, I was looking for all these women early on, I wasn't at a level where I could kind of network with them at that point in time or know where to find them. And as I've progressed with my career, I found more and more women, and I'm engaging with them, and it's amazing. Also to see the things that we're all doing and are planning to do. So I love being in this industry now because there's so many of us. But I think we still need a few more to join the industry.
Yes, no, most definitely. I mean, we both attended the recent awards, the Women in Financial Advice Awards,
Yes, we
and
did.
that was just a prime example, to see so many women in the industry in one place at one
Yeah.
time. And it was just inspiring, to just be in the event, speak to so much amazing women. Um, and yeah, I think yes, the industry has come a long way, and there are a lot more women within the industry, but you're right, there is still a long way to go. And
Yeah.
I think between what we do in the industry can only help push that forward.
Indeed, indeed. And congratulations, Makala, on your award. You must be really proud.
I was. I definitely was. Quite more shocked than anything else.
That's good. That's good.
But
Yeah.
yeah, really proud, but at the same time, for me, I do it for, as mentioned, what initially motivated me, and
Mm,
that's having a lack of representation when I was growing up in the industry. And so I don't want that repeated for new females or people of different backgrounds who are now coming into the industry, because the industry's just opened its doors, which is fantastic. But I think you don't want those individuals to have those same stories and for us to be repeating the cycle. So for me, I do as much as I can, with platforms like that, to just continue to inspire in any way that I can, and continue to motivate people to go into these industries that might be male dominated. It seems like we're talking a lot about male and female, but go into these
yeah.
industries, that are male dominated, and industries which generally you don't see females and females of color.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And keeping on that theme about, people coming to the industry, I think the one thing that confuses a lot of people who are looking from the outside in are the different titles within the industry. And certainly when people come to me for advice, some people are asking for certain things, and I say to them, no, I can't do that. You need a financial planner or a financial advisor. I'm an investment manager, and they don't understand the difference. So could you explain what the role of a financial planner is in an individual's wealth journey?
Yes, in an individual's wealth journey, a financial planner, it can be so confusing because we go by so many titles. Okay, so a financial planner can also be a financial advisor, could also be a financial expert as well. So it is confusing for those outside of the industry, and sometimes those within. So it's one of those things where a planner can be a person who basically looks at your financial journey, and they work with you and really map out a financial plan going forward. And it will take into account, multiple things from, savings. It might be an investment journey, helping individuals overcome debt, and just making sure that they can achieve their future financial goals and remain secure in the future. But I think where the confusion lies is that somebody who may not be qualified and just does financial planning in terms of putting a plan in place can call themselves a financial planner, or they do. Whereas a financial advisor who may call themselves a financial planner, like myself, is a qualified individual. So you do have to have certain qualifications in order to advise, and also you are regulated by financial services in the practice of what you do. So it's important that, I think, for individuals who's looking from outside in and seeking some form of advice, not to get so caught up with the titles, but more focus on the qualifications that individual has. And again, you've got the chartered, which myself, I'm chartered, and that's like the highest qualification in the industry one can receive. So you kind of get a basic understanding that somebody who's chartered has a good level of experience, and they might specialize in certain areas. So I think it's more looking at, is that person qualified? Are they regulated? Those are the things that individuals should focus on, rather than the titles, because most people can, give very fancy titles, but it's more about the qualifications.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, the qualifications make it easier to work out, I think, what the person can and can't do for you. I am an investment manager, so I can't advise on pensions. But
Right.
pensions is such it's a big topic for a lot of people because most people have them through their workplace. And the people who come to me for advice tend to be getting closer and closer to pension age. But, I'm quite fortunate that I've built a long list of people who I know who can advise, including yourself.
It's interesting because I recently had a lady who reached out to me, and she's looking to embark a career within financial services. And I questioned to her, wealth, and she mentioned about wealth management, and I said the wealth management industry is so huge. Which direction, are you planning on going? And she said, well, actually, I don't know, but I've started doing some exams. And I said, well, actually, I think the first step would be to identify which direction or what you actually want to do within the wealth management space, because different job roles require different qualifications. And it's like a prime example. If I wanted to go and do your job, I have to take, your qualifications. And likewise, if you wanted to do what I do, you have to take the qualifications that I have. And so it's very different. Although we are advising and recommending and we're knowledgeable around the same things, in order to actually do the activities of the role, you need the right qualifications to do that. So it's not only the people that want advice are confused, it's also people coming into the industry that have this confusion as well.
Yeah, 100%. So we've talked about the confusing job roles, and they'll continue to get confusing. One
Just
thing
hope
I'd like,
not.
yeah, well, we'll try and simplify them for
Yeah,
people. Makala, could you share how you support your clients?
sure. I'd like to support my clients in as many ways as possible. So my age demographic ranges quite widely, and so the way how different people from age brackets, receive financial information differs. And so I try and, keep as accessible face to face, over the phone, emails, social media, whatever ways that works well for the clients and is useful for them to, number one, keep up to date with financial information, so they are always in the know-how. And secondly, to also ensure that they have that, personal connection with myself and the relationship as their financial planner.
You touched on the fact that you are chartered when we were talking about qualifications and the different labels that we have in the industry. But you are actually the first Black female chartered financial planner in the UK. What was it like to be the first and to know that, you've got this kind of label of being the first Black female chartered financial planner in the country? And just tell us about how you worked towards that.
Yeah, it was so surreal for me. Again, a complete shocker, but at the same time, not so shocking because, as mentioned, I started in the industry really young, and I qualified as a financial advisor at the age of 21. And it was almost always my ambition to just continue in my field and work to the best of my ability, and do things right by my clients. But I'm always up for giving myself a bit of a challenge. And the minute I heard about, there's this chartered qualification, and it's a qualification that's very well respected in the industry, and so on and so forth, it was almost like a no-brainer for me. It was something I definitely wanted to go ahead and do. For me, I kind of dropped out of college to pursue a career in finances, and so it was almost my putback to myself to kind of say, well, hey, this is a qualification that's equivalent to a university degree, and this is something that I personally want to do for myself. But I had no idea, the actual scope of it all, and in terms of how few advisors in the UK are actually chartered, number one, and then also the lack of females, or the small percentage of females that are chartered in the UK. And then it just falls back down to there not being many Black people in the industry, that I feel that award, I was recognized with that recognition. But for me, it was definitely like a wake up call, and almost like a slap in the face that, this is the moment that I have to really put back in the industry and do as much as I can to change that. Because as much as I was really happy with the award and so proud, I was also a bit embarrassed as well from my industry's point of view. And I thought, if the changes are not going to be within from the individuals within the industry, then who's going to change it? And that was like the switch and the light bulb moment for me to just really become more visible, get out there and mentor lots of young females, which I do on a regular basis, do internships and offer individuals, the opportunity to see the inside of what wealth management looks like and what my role looks like and how they can use that to embark their careers. So I suppose it kind of had mixed emotions for me. Overall, absolutely fantastic, but at the same time, a real push in the right direction to help the industry make the changes that's needed.
Yeah, I hear you, Michaela, and I'm 100% with you on that. I think that's partly why I've been doing some of the things that people have seen me doing out there, whether it's been
Yeah, you're doing so
consistently
well.
or not. Oh, thank you. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do that. But I think if we don't put ourselves out there, then there is going to continue being this perception that there are no women of color operating at a relatively high level. It's really important that we can, we make ourselves visible so that, the next generation of young people who are looking for jobs can actually see that there is a place for them in the industry. So, I absolutely agree with you. It's important for those of us who are in there to just push forward, and keep leveling up and use whatever platforms we can to make a difference. Thinking about young people who are thinking about a career in the industry, we both know that there's still a lot of barriers in financial services for women of color. So what would you say to the young Black woman who is considering a career in your field, the financial planning field? What would your initial advice be to her?
So my initial advice would be to find some form of mentor within the industry. Um, we are still almost an industry of it's who rather than in terms of getting in through the door. I feel it's still quite difficult for individuals, even if you have all of the right qualifications to get into the industry, because what many people look for is the experience. But as you and I know, you cannot gain the experience if you're not given that opportunity. So I think it's a right time when you're looking to embark is to try and get some form of mentor within the industry that is in the industry that can give you the guidance, and the right routes as to the best way to go, depending on what role you want to do. So, and I think secondly is really understanding what the role of a financial advisor is, because I think many people glamorize the role of a financial advisor and they don't really fully understand what a financial advisor does on a day-to-day basis. So it's just making sure that that is the career path that you want to go into. Because as mentioned, as what I mentioned to the lady that reached out to me as well, the wealth management industry is really huge. There's so many different roles within the industry, and financial advising might not suit you, but it might be that you want to go down the route of investment banking. So I just think it's important to understand the specific role, what's required, and make sure that that suits in and aligns with your personal career goals and visions. And then once you've found that out, then definitely get some form of mentor who can hopefully help you open some doors, if possible, or at least give you the guidance that you need so you can set off in the right direction.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic advice. I wish I had had that advice when I got into the industry. It was so confusing, even for me, whilst I was working my way up. And when I got into the industry, I joined as a secretary, and I vowed within 3 months that I would be out of the industry very quickly because I didn't see anyone who looked like me. Thank God I stayed, and staying was actually the best decision I feel I had made. And I've now had the opportunity to meet, and I'm still meeting some phenomenal people, male and female,
Yeah.
but I always get excited when I meet people of color who are operating at really high levels, because we are supporting each other as much as we can. So yeah, I would encourage as many people to consider financial services. But you're right, Makala, just understand who you are and what sort of areas you think would suit you, and you can only really get a true idea of what the work is like if you speak to somebody who's doing it or someone who's done it before, and then they can give you a bit of insight into what you may be putting yourself in for. Now, looking back at all you've achieved to date, Makala, what advice would you give to your younger self?
So the advice that I will give to my younger self is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this is something I wish I had told myself, or I wish I had practiced from a very young age. But they say it's never too late, to do the right thing. So I think for me that has been a game changer, putting myself into situations where I might not be comfortable, and you might not feel accepted, or you might not feel that you should be in that position, but accepting that, that you should be there, and accepting that things can change regardless of where you are currently.
I think that's really, really good advice. That's the only way to move forward. And sometimes we make ourselves uncomfortable because we've put the barrier or the restriction in front of us. And
Yeah, so
actually,
true.
yeah, and everybody else is saying, but come along. And we're like, no, I don't want to go there because I shouldn't be there. But I think if we just start embracing the uncomfortable and take it as a way of stretching ourselves, phenomenal things do start to happen. Makala, I want to thank you for coming onto the podcast. I just have one last question to ask you, which I ask all the people I interview. So, as you know, I believe that to create true wealth, we must all have a clear understanding of what wealth means to us. So, in a few words, please, could you share with us what wealth means to you in terms of your physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial well-being?
Yes, sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Titsi. Wealth means so much things to different people. My personal perception of wealth is something or things that will live on even when you're gone. So that could be a number of things, and that could be, it could be money, it could be property, it could even be spiritualness, it could be values that you've installed in someone, it could be ways that you've inspired people. So wealth is not just secluded to money and rich things. Wealth means so much more than that, and it's almost the legacy, your legacy that you're building, and that's my perception of wealth.
I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. Now, how can anyone who's listening to this episode get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm available, on multiple streams. I would say I do post regularly on Instagram, so you can access me at the Wealth Check.
Brilliant. So I will put the link to the Wealth Check in the show notes so people can use that link to get in touch with you. Makala, it's been wonderful having you on the podcast. I'm sure I'll find another excuse to get you on here.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing, and as mentioned, yours and my passions ally aligned. So continue with everything that you're doing.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Connect with me at The Wealth Conversation on Facebook and Instagram so we can continue the discussion. Also, if you're ready to define what wealth truly means to you, then go to thewealthconversation.com and download the Wealth Cornerstones guide. Until next week, stay focused on becoming the designer of your financial future.